with different structures, what they're calling epochs. Let's take a look. The first epoch is from birth to 9 years old. During this time, the brain refines its structure. The next stage is from age 9 to 32. Researchers finding that this is the only time in our lives when our mental processes become more efficient. Brain structure then stabilizes without major changes for the longest era, adulthood, from 32 to 66. This is a time when researchers generally believe people's personality and intelligence plateaus. From 66 to 83 years old, there are milder changes to brain networks, and then the last epoch begins around 83, when people's brain reaches their final structure. I want to bring in someone who can help us dig a little deeper into each of these phases and turning points, Dr. Leah Kroll, who specializes in neurology. Dr. Kroll, thanks so much for being here on Top Story. So talk to me first about this first epoch as if I didn't have a medical degree, because I don't.
So to borrow a term from Taylor Swift, this first era is really the childhood brain, ages 0, so birth to 9 years old. And this is really all about making new connections. It's kind of the brain in wiring mode. Always learning new things. We call this a plastic era in the brain, meaning the neurons are making all these new connections with one another. It's an era of rapid change, so much growth within the brain structures, and so much for that baby and child to be learning in their environment.
Yeah, and then the turning point at 32 is one of the most dramatic. What happens here?
So before we get to 32, we have this era of efficiency between 9 and 32. And as you mentioned before, this is really a unique era. It's when those connections are being strengthened and refined. After 32, we have this long period of maintenance and stability that goes on for several decades, where the brain is constantly reorganizing itself, but doing so in a way that maintains the integrity of its communication networks.
What does that mean, though? What should people take this information and do differently in their lives?
I think the main takeaway for folks at home is that the brain is always reorganizing itself and developing itself. So at every stage of life, it's important to take care of your brain health. It's important to think about how your environment is impacting the way that your brain is working and will work in the future. We know that your lifestyle plays a huge role, that the health of your body plays a huge role in the health of your brain and the way it functions. And this research really underlines that at every single age, something is going on to affect the way your brain is functioning.
So the adulthood period, epoch, ends at age 66 from this research, right? What does that tell us? Can you teach an old dog new tricks?
Yes and no. There is kind of truth to that adage. It is harder to learn new tricks when you're older, and that's because the brain is less plastic, meaning it's harder for neurons to make new connections with one another. In fact, after age 66, we're starting to see a decline in connectivity within the brain, meaning different parts of the brain are not talking to each other as quickly and efficiently as they were in the younger years. That doesn't mean the brain isn't working well, but that does mean that we start to see a big difference in terms of people who had overall good health and take good care of their brain health versus people who don't. These are the years where things like high blood pressure, heart disease, medical conditions really start to chip away at the way the brain works.
Yeah, when you talk about good brain health, give us some other tips there. What should people be keeping in mind as they age?
Number one brain health tip for me is going to be exercise. Exercise is the way at every stage of life, whether you're a child or you're in your 90s, to promote good brain function. It works in the short term. It's going to enhance your cognitive function. And in the long term, it's going to protect your brain health. After exercise, you want to look at things like maintaining a healthy diet. We love the Mediterranean diet, getting good sleep, managing stress, and making sure that you're making your social life a priority. Having healthy relationships throughout your life is so important.
All right, Dr. Leah Kroll, we thank you so much for joining Top Story tonight.
Thank you.